Welcome to a new episode of Outside the Panels with your host, Johnny the Machine Hughes.
Welcome everyone to another episode of Outside the Panels. And you know me, I love a good Kickstarter. Where would we be without Kickstarters? These are the next generation of comic book creators. Of course, some of them have been around doing other stuff somewhere else. Who'd have thunk it? Anyway, to save that conversation for later, I am here with not one, but two fantastic creators to talk about their new book. We have Arthur Ebuen and Dave Law. How's it going?
Good. Good to see you.
And you too. I hope I got your name somewhere close.
That's right. Sounded great to me.
Beautiful.
Yeah, my accent. Yeah, pardons a lot of sins. All right, so we're here to talk about your book, which I'll admit, I absolutely got the title wrong. For those that know me on all the other pods I do, including TDC and the Old Timers, if there's a name that's going to get wrong, it's by me. I'm going to do it. The book, the Kickstarter, is California Inc., not at Alifornia, which I thought it was. I don't just look at it. I mean, no, it's just me. Maybe it's just me. I don't know. I can't believe I'm taking flack for this. I need me some evidence, don't I? I need me some evidence. Have a look at this. See, everyone. See, you tell me what this looks like. Where's it at? There it is. Look at that. Just look at that. You know what I'm saying? Son of a... Anyway, enough about that for now. Enough about my shortcomings. All right, let's start at the top and work our way down. We'll start, Arthur. How did you get into comic books? What was it about comics that you love so much?
Oh man, I started my career as an illustrator, but so as a kid, I've always loved just looking at the artwork of comics. Again, by trade, I'm an artist. Worked my way up into animation, and then kind of switched out of that after a few years and went into design and advertising. And in that world of writing for commercials, I wanted to put that thinking into long form and get back into my world of comics, and wrote comics. But you know, it's instead of me doing a disservice to my writing by me drawing it, I figured I'd hire somebody who's better than me. Find a partner that's better than me, like Dave here, who could make the work look even better than what I wrote. So, you know, it's I've always loved comics. It's a TV show without the budget, you know what I mean? So it's kind of cool to watch it come to life just on flat pieces of paper, and you have that cool reveal of the folding over to the next page. There's something about that, you know, when you flip the page, or something about that kind of reveal for the next set of next spread, that kind of thing. So I always loved comics since I was a kid.
So you say animation. Will I have seen anything that you've worked on?
Yeah. I worked on the very first season as an animator for Futurama, and then
Futurama.
There's this young up and comer, Matt Groening, has this show called
Up and coming.
I think he has a Kickstarter.
I think he's up and went.
He's also a comic book artist.
That's right. He was. So worked on the first season of Futurama, and then worked on seasons 10 through or 11 through 13 of The Simpsons. So did that for a bit. Fun stuff. Good part of my career that I just look back on. I loved, and it's with you know, just smiling back at it. So it's good stuff for sure.
Every time I watch a Futurama episode, it always seems to be the one where it's Old Man Fry comes back for Leela. And I always manage to no matter what time, I'll sit and think, right, no, I'll miss the first one, the second one, watch the second one. Inside the episode, no matter how I do it, I always sit.
That writer's getting a lot of royalties.
Isn't it just? Dave, so what's it like? You're the artist of this project. What's it like having a collaborator who's always an artist? Is he always giving you grief? Like, dude, I wouldn't put that line there.
Yeah, pretty much. I just sit on the phone and he dictates my hand. He's like, move it a little to the left, move it a little right. Okay, I fill that in. That's just how we roll. I actually don't really know how to draw comics. I just follow directions really well.
I think you undersell yourself, my friend. I do. So, Dave, how did you get into comic books?
Oh, I've always loved comics. It's been, it was definitely one of the first kind of modern pieces of art that really captured my imagination and inspired me when I was a young kid. And that impression has just always been there. It was just such a strong impression. So, like, even though my tastes in comics have changed through the years, it's always been a medium that's been serving up something that works for me. And I think it's like what Art was explaining about it, and the kind of the beauty of comics is they're so easy to make that they really are the easiest place for a creative person to tell a story with visuals and words, and so you really can get something for everyone, and I think Japan does it better than anyone. But even still here, we've already got quite a few genres now, and I've always been able to find something. There's always been something that keeps me coming back to them, despite obviously not being a kid anymore and wanting to necessarily read superhero comics, which are also great.
Don't knock superhero comics. What are you doing, man? Don't come around my house and kick the sand off.
I didn't say I don't like superhero comics because I just haven't read as many of them anymore.
Oh, that's the end of the show. See you later. Okay. Quality. Okay, so this is one of the things I always stress in my day job. People say, "Oh, you read comic books? Oh, it's all Batman, Spider-Man." And you know what? Yes, I read Batman, and yes, I read some Spider-Man. But the range of different things out there, especially if you take it not just from, I suppose, DC trying to experiment with some of their stuff. You've got the indies doing their things, but then you take it to the next step, which is the Kickstarters, which is where you get to actually create the sandbox and then do what the hell you want with your toys without anybody saying otherwise, right?
100%.
Right. And you can create it and get compensation for it, and it's really cool. It really has opened up, I think, some huge doors for what we're going to see in comics. I mean, we are already seeing. It's not like it's not been already happening. And I think a lot of the bigger publishers, I think, are feeling that too. I think that they're seeing that. Yeah, I mean, you're hearing about a lot of the mid-level publishers. I think are feeling it more so. But there's a lot of stuff that people are just self-publishing now that's really competing with the quality and style is up there.
I think to kind of follow on Dave's point, Art, I think sometimes people are just a little bit bored. I mean, we all love old pointy ears. Yeah, we all love It gets cyclic, right? It's like, how many times can his back be broken? How many times does Captain America's shield need to be shattered? It's whereas in indie stuff, it kind of, you can tell your story, and then it's one and done. You don't have to come back. You don't have to worry about sequels. You don't have to do, and because it's not a cross-media platform or a cross-media icon, you've got that freedom. Of course, the flip side of that is that because your characters aren't media icons, it means you've got to do a lot more work.
Yeah. Unknown quantities have a little bit harder time, right?
Oh yeah.
Should we have a look at the video from your Kickstarter?
Sure.
Let's have a look. Here we go. This is the video that's at the top of the California Inc. Kickstarter. And look at that. It's not working. It is working. Here we go. There you go. Very impressive, gentlemen. Very impressive indeed. What was the impetus? What's the idea behind this then? What was the we get the kind of gist. So what was it the main thing? Well, hold on a second. If California leaves the Union, what next?
Right, right. It came from the idea of two things were happening at the same. Well, one thing is I was working at corporate at the time, and as a creative person in corporate, you kind of find it silly sometimes, and how there's these geopolitical kind of moves. And then in that process of kind of working in there, I had read this report. Actually, excuse me, I didn't read a report, but the editor, Justin and I were talking about stuff, and he said, it kind of came up when I said that, what if California did secede? He brought up something he read a while back, which was that at the time, and now it's actually fourth, California is the fourth strongest economy in the world. And so what's holding us back from being our own thing is not having our own fresh water source, especially us down here in Southern California. We get
I thought it was the Chargers.
Oh, dang, ouch. Oh, that one hurt.
Sorry, I'm a Dolphins fan. Did I not mention that? Yeah.
No, it's all good. It's all good. I mean, they're not ours anymore, so it doesn't hurt me anymore. Except when you said it and it hurt a little bit. But yeah, so kind of thought about if California was to break off, why and what would make it different and innovative from any other country? And you've got, like it's mentioned in the video, you got Hollywood as the strongest PR, you got the largest military privatized, you got Silicon Valley as your biggest source of revenue. And then, there's this little conflict at the border where now Tahoe is all California. It's been switched around, so it's not split down the middle, it's kind of taken over. So there's some tension there, and there's some opportunity to tell stories of the political side, the action in the border, people who used to live in California, who originally owned this land, are Native Americans who then got taken over by the English, and then now this corporate country.
The English? Dude, you have a whole day. You have a whole day celebrating kicking the English out.
It's true. You're right.
Don't be coming to me saying the English. Jesus. Right, that's the end of the show. See you later. Bye.
Twice. You're like, what did I do?
Yeah.
Cut to Johnny. What the hell?
Dolphins doesn't mean no need to get personal about it.
Yeah. So, it kind of branched off from there and thought about all the different people that are on the land. If it is a corporate country, are you a resident or an employee? So now residents are called employees. So it's just kind of this fun backdrop to play with, and you got plenty of stories in it to play around with. And this first one's a nice action-packed one that kind of jumps right in, and you start to meet other characters in the next 3 issues. It's 4 total issues. That's completely written and edited, written by me, edited by Justin Jumpali. And we have finished illustrating the first one through Dave here and kicking it off on Kickstarter.
Cool. Excellent. Dave, there's so much going on, right? So you've got action going on, you've got the political stuff. I imagine there's going to be a couple of boardrooms going in there as well. How do you manage to kind of keep the pace of the art going through some of those pages? Because some of those panels are going to be quite, I imagine, exposition heavy or talk heavy at least.
Yeah, certainly. And there's definitely some parts where you like. I think Art does a good job of breaking it up. Like he has the scenes kind of jump back and forth between some good action and intrigue with also the explanation and some discussions. I mean, I've always enjoyed drawing people and drawing expressions. I find that's actually quite exciting to illustrate when you're looking at people's body language and their facial expressions, especially with the kinds of discussions that that are happening in these boardrooms. It's not the non-dramatic kind of conversations where you're talking about So it's dramatic and fun, and the characters are extreme enough that I had a good time with it. I think one of the things that Art placed to the story in the future, but not super far in the future. So a lot of it was trying to kind of come up with the costumes and the looks of people and not be too sci-fi but also feel give it a feel that it's forward. And that I think that's a challenge. I think it's easy to always go really fantastic and really play around with just all the visual elements, or just ground it in what's now. So kind of jumping back and forth was tricky, but a fun challenge. And so like even in those kind of more less action, more dialogue situations, I was thinking about these things and having fun with it. And I think the viewer will look at it and enjoy that as well.
It's kind of interesting you bring up that whole sort of like the age element. I remember reading an article about someone complaining about the Star Wars prequels, saying that everything looks better in the prequels than it did in Star Wars: A New Hope, which is supposed to be set after that. And someone someone's like, dude, it's like the Roman Empire and the Britons. Look how great it was when Rome was in Britain, and now they left. You went to a Bronze Age, so things.
Yeah, that makes tons of sense.
Yeah,
that's a good.
So you've kind of got to think about, just because it's fantastic in one place doesn't mean it's always going to grow. Progress can stop and hinder before moving forward. So, I think aesthetically you've kind of been mindful of that. You got to. I mean, when I was a kid, everyone was talking about by the time we get to 2020, they'd be flying cars.
They also
flying cars, man. Come on.
A floating skateboard. We were promised that years ago.
I mean, last time I saw a flying car was on his cartoon show. So it's interesting. With so many different elements in play, then 4 issues doesn't seem a lot to get it all done. Is this 4 issues just kind of like the first arc, and you're planning further afield?
No, the first arc is actually 4 issues long. So there's a lot that happens within the first 4 issues, but then there's enough of a story in the first one, so you feel like there's movement, but also enough right at the end to go, oh well, I need to know what's happening in the next 3 issues. So try to break it up in that way, so it's satisfying, but also like, okay, what's happening next?
Okay, cool. So Dave, with having an artist on board, as much as he guides your hand, who wins the artistic battles? Because I mean, I speak to a lot of writers and artists. And I always feel that writers tend to be mini editors. You know what I'm saying? They kind of be
okay.
Between you and me, Dave.
Hovering art.
They don't let go, right? They just want to keep going like you, right? Shh, don't tell them. So who wins the battles? And how do
you? We haven't really. I can't say we've had a battle, right? I know. I wish I could give you something. I wish I could give you something better, but he's given me a lot of freedom. Honestly, it's been a lot of fun. He'll kind of guide me in what he thinks will be what he thinks will look the best, but I think he trusts my judgment, which I fully and 100% appreciate. And where suggestions are made, I usually just do them because I've done it now enough that usually when someone makes a suggestion, it's almost always right. Like I've fought them before, and then I always lose because you're right. The writer always does get their way, and then I'll do it and I'll be like, oh man, they were right. It is better, So I usually just do it, and it's usually I've luckily worked with and same with, and this includes art, people who've never asked for like something that's ridiculous or a ridiculous change.
Give it time.
It's just been a good suggestion.
You haven't seen issue 5. Apparently 56 helicopters descend on California to try and take it back, so enjoy that one. Better be watching some Airwolf. One of the things I did absolutely love on your Kickstarter page is the love you give. I'm going to get this wrong, so I'll go for it, and if I get it wrong, so be it. I love the love you give Frank Savetkovich.
You're telling me I haven't been able to pronounce his last name either, so you did better than me already. This is one of my bugbears. Absolutely. In that, when I write reviews for Crusaders, Comic Crusaders, our sister site, I always make sure I say something about the lettering, always, because it's part of the process, right? Yeah. And I often end my speech about letterers by saying, oh, and look, they don't get a cover credit. What's that all about? So I actually think
and this has been my hill for about the last 6 months, is that letterers should get cover credits. And
Of
to see
course.
you guys sort of big up Frank for his work on the book is absolutely tremendous. I think that's absolutely brilliant. So
Cool.
thank you for sharing the blame. I mean, sharing the credit.
That's a good point. If it fails, it's all our
I didn't
fault.
say that. I'm British. I don't know. My accent.
With all due respect, something disrespectful.
I'll just come on and say that. That's fine.
No.
All right. Okay. Before we get a look at the art and the Kickstarter in more detail, it's time for one of our ads for one of our other shows. I haven't got a lot to choose from show-wise, so I think it's time for an old favorite. It's the Old Timers.
Do you want to find out what makes the professor do his happy dance? Check out the Old Timers Comic Book Show, only on the UCPN.
There you go, the Old Timers Comic Book Show, where the hosts aren't old, but the comics most certainly are. You're interested in comics from 25 years plus back? That's the show for you.
Oh.
There you go. And that includes Marvel, DC, indie books, the whole works. So there you go. Cool. Right. Enough chitty chat. Let us get to see some of their pictures. Show us the art. Show us the art. He's over there.
Accurate.
Yeah, like I said, boom, there we go. Okay, so Dave, what's going on here? She looks a bit angry.
Yeah, no, this was kind of a challenging one. There's a lot of action that happened in this one page, and I remember thinking it was going to be I had to really think about each panel. And this starts with her, like, her gun not working, and so you kind of get that click and her realization that's not, and her repeatedly kind of trying it for a couple more times.
But American.
Yeah, probably. And then so she throws the cartridge at the guy and to distract him, and then just proceeds to open a can of whoop ass on him.
Can I make a quick comment about this? This is one where, not knowing who my artist would be when I first wrote this, I, as an artist myself, had to write it full script. So I described every single panel, right? And then when I met with Dave, I was like, hey, Dave, look, here's just me making sure that I'm telling the story right. Now take the panels, take the pages, you know where I'm trying to go. Let's talk about the pages and then make it better. Like, you've done this longer than me, so make it better. And this is a perfect example of it. Like, I had a certain look in my head of what this could look like. And when he sketched it up, he did his quick thumbs and sent it my way. I was like, what is this? Like, whoa. Like, and then he inked it and colored it. And I was like, even better each step. And it's one of those, like, trust who you work with, trust your partners. And this was a perfect example of it. I love how this came out. If you read the script, it's close, but this is even gooder, if that's a word.
I think the word is better. I'm not quite sure. Oh my God. Okay. This guy's the writer.
I have an editor. His name is Justin.
Yeah. His dialogue is, say something. Say something back.
And he was all, and then she was all.
I want you mentioned Dave about the facial elements of your art. I just want to turn around and give a little bit of nod here. That is probably one of the best hands this side of Jim Aparo that I've seen drawn in absolutely ages. You know.
Oh, thank you.
They are absolutely. I like to doodle, and when it gets to hands, I'm like, how the hell? It looks spot on. That is how you hold a gun, right? Yeah?
Thank you.
A lot of research must have gone into that.
Hands are hard. AI still has not figured out how to draw hands. So I'm like, well, if I'm gonna cut down AI for not drawing hands, I better be able to draw a hand. You know?
Oh, good God. Don't tell Rob Liefeld that. We'll never get rid of him. What can I say? So I really like that. I really like the whole panel. I love this motion here. This is really great. I I have a second book. Let's have a look at the second one. The second one's a little bit more interesting, not from an action point of view, more from a kind of look feel of it. It's number 2. There it is. So this one, maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it evokes for me a touch of Dennis Cowan in there. About around some of like you remember the figure work from the original Milestone books, the kind of the way that leg's kind of presented in the middle panel. It just kind of has that kind of the feel. I'm not sure if that's a intentional thing or
not intentional. No. Actually, I think what was in my head was Akira. Like I was thinking a lot of that, like the sequence of the motorcycle bikes in Akira. But no, I'll have to check that out. It's not, like I'm not totally familiar with that the stuff you're talking about. So yeah.
So Dennis Cowan does kind of like heavy line stuff. So I think he made his name on Deathlock for Marvel, and then went to work on Milestone Comics for a bit. It's just that the way that poses and the way that leg kind of sticks, I'm kind of like, interesting. And it kind of, some of the faces are quite gaunt in places, and I thought, that's kind of where I got that from.
Oh, cool.
Well, it's probably me reading too many comic books, so
No. Like it's funny, like that stuff. It's like it's cool to kind of find out. Sometimes people will be like, "Oh, it reminds me of this," and you're like, "Oh yeah, that's definitely something that I read a lot and inspired me." Sometimes it's not, but you go and you find someone else who's like kind of followed a similar road as you did, and you find something that you're into again. So that's cool. Yeah.
I mean, hand on heart, it's gorgeous. Both pages look fantastic. I love the snow effect going on here. I love how the headlights on the bike are trying to cut through that. The whole page looks fantastic. It was just like a fleeting observation.
Thank you.
So
that was a Dave edition, by the way.
Thank you.
This did not take place in the snow in the script. And Dave was like, "I want to try something in the snow." I was like, "Go for it, dude!" And then like it just fit perfectly in there. It just was, again, a Dave like, "Hey, what if we did this in the snow?" I was like, "Really? Let me see." And look at this, like it's amazing.
Only in California can you go from surf to snow in
the same day.
And I was the reason I did that, my experience with Tahoe, because we both actually both live in California. My experience with Lake Tahoe is going there for the winter and going there to see the snow and doing kind of snow sports stuff. So when I was reading it, it was in the winter in my head, and then I realized as trying to draw it. Oh, I don't think he ever specifically said when this is. I just kind of assumed, and so I asked him, and he was like, I don't think about anything. I was like, well, I'll make it in the winter because that's gonna be awesome. So I think it really added a different kind of a feel to it.
Agreed. It kind of changes the whole complexion of the page. Just from the character having to consider different problems to deal with from getting from point A to point B.
Mm-hmm.
So the whole thing rocks very, very well. Well done, indeed.
Thank you.
We are going to have a look at the Kickstarter, so let's give me 2 seconds to bring that up. Talk amongst yourselves whilst we do the technical stuff.
Elevator music.
Let me get back to where I want to be at the top before we get there. And there we go. And here we are. Boom. So where are we? As it currently stands, it's in pounds because I'm in the UK. So it's £969 against the £4,560 goal. Flip that over into dollars, and you are looking at 1,169 based against a 5,500 goal. 26 backers, 29 days at the time of recording. First off, I will say this: 26 backers after such a short space of time. That's pretty good going.
Cool. That's good to hear. A little nervous. Yeah. I mean, it's my first Kickstarter. I know it's not Dave's first, but then it's just we've got 30 days. Let's just cross our fingers. It works out for everybody.
I think it'll be fine. I absolutely genuinely think it'll be fine. I love how the concept is pretty much in there. You've got the main character. Check that out in a snowstorm. Oreo ballast behind it in the background, perhaps. Never mind. Some of the panels we've looked at already. here we go, the boardroom meeting that we talked about.
Look at the drama Dave added to those pages. My goodness. Amazing.
It's like an episode of The West Wing.
Right.
I don't know. Do people
Yeah,
still watch The West Wing?
I was really thinking that scene. I was thinking of the Hillary Clinton Donald Trump debate.
All right.
Which one? He was like hovering behind her. I'll let you guys decide. But I remember, that was very kind of what I was thinking of a lot for this scene.
Interesting. That's the first time I heard that, Dave. Interesting. Cool.
I love the idea of how you've kind of taken like the pillars of the state. You talk about the Silicon Valley, you talk about Hollywood, and you've kind of set that as like these are the cornerstones. This is what we're going to do, and it's built on there. The element, from my understanding, because I'm like a gazillion million miles from California. California is quite a diverse part of the world to start with. Does that diversity shine through in elements of the book?
100%. Yes. That's definitely representation is shown throughout. We've got first set of characters in this episode. I'm sorry, this issue. It's an ensemble cast, so it's not one main character. There's a decent amount of characters. We meet the first set of cast here. Issue 2, you meet another set, and then throughout 3 and 4, it shows where their storylines intertwine.
Yeah, cool, excellent. So I like that idea, especially because I think there's a lot of groundwork to be covered there, especially if you consider the elements of if you've got the different avenues of business and how does that impact the everyday person, not just the the mega rich.
For sure.
Right. Let's have a look at the pledges. That's what we get. So $5 or more, you get an early bird digital copy. Very good. I like the fact that Kickstarter's offered digital copies predominantly, and I'll explain why. Although I do prefer to hold comic books in my hand. I'm an international buyer, right? So if I'm gonna bid on your book or pledge to your book, I've got to worry about postage, and I don't have a problem dropping $5 on a new book at all. I'd rather spend $5 on a new book than $5 on yet another bad book, which I know will surprise people. But what I don't want to do is spend $5 on a book and then have to spend $25 shipping it across, because that now becomes cost prohibitive. So I definitely think digital is one of the ways to go for your internationals.
Yeah.
And what's fun for me is I like to read the digital first. And then if I like it that much, I'm hoping that the project gets funded and they do a printed version. And if I see them at a convention, I'll buy a physical version. So I'm hopefully supporting them twice, because it's like, I like the story. I have it with me at all times on my phone or on my iPad. And then I see that person in person, go, hey, can I get a physical version and have you sign it? Because I loved it so much. I want to actually have it with me.
You're a man after my own heart. So I review for Comic Crusaders, right? So I review a lot of indie books. Not because I'm a huge indie fan, although I am, but because Marvel and DC don't need my 2 cents to help sell books, right? Right?
Yeah.
So if I get a book that I really, really like, Love Kills at the minute from Image. There you go. There's an example. Casual Fling from AWA. Fight Girls. Books that I wouldn't normally pick up, but if I see issue 1 and I'm reviewing the issue, I'm like, wow, this is so good. Not only have I reviewed it, I'm going to go down to the local comic book shop and put an order in and get the whole damn, and I'm responsible. I've got to do that. I can't just sit back and think, oh, well, I'll just review issue number 2, or I'll just look at number 3 or whatever, if I like the book, I'm going to go out and buy it. So
that's the collectorness, right? We got to have, I want mine too.
Yeah, that's the nerd in me. I don't know.
Well, there's 3 of us here on this.
I will take my lumps with that one. Let's see, $12 or more, get your number 1 PDF and physical, ships anywhere to the world. Are you worried about postage costs for?
Well, in the US, it's free, and there's an additional cost for shipping for anybody outside of the US.
Is that amazing? I'm amazed you didn't just keep going and say it's free in California. and everyone else has to.
Oh, that's that's way more on brand. I should have thought of that. Oh my God, Johnny. Oh man, of all the things, how funny and mad would people be outside of California? Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, I wish I would have thought of that. That would have been hysterical. Issue 2, Johnny. If that happens, issue 2, you know it came from. I couldn't get any backers.
I don't know. I don't know. There's plenty of backers out there, I think.
No.
I like the idea of the script. I think that's a really good call, actually. I think you've got a lot of budding comic book artists and writers out there who don't know how to produce a script. So I think offering some guidance as to how to go about that is a good thing. I mean, Arthur, you've worked in animation. How different is working in animation to working in comic books?
I mean, with animation, the timeline is much tighter, and you have way more support. But it's basically the same thing in the end. It's just lots of back and forth, a lot of edits, a lot of collaboration. Cool. Everybody being able to give and take here and there. But like you said, the script part I think was important for me. Kind of learning to write a script through Justin, our editor. He's written a few books, and he and I are friends, and he kind of showed me the ropes. And until I saw a physical script and had him explain how things work, that I kind of said, let me empower myself to write something. And if I could do the same with a copy of mine, and they could see the script versus what they're looking at, and kind of compare the two and see that in action. Hopefully that it becomes a tool for them as well. I agree with you.
Cool. Dave, we have some commissions from you there as well.
Yeah.
Captain Sprocket there, apparently. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. So like, I think if you get to a certain pledge level, you'll get a commission from me, and you can either tell me something to draw, or let me riff off of something that you want. It's up to the person. But that was one I did for another Kickstarter, and these were examples of what people asked me to draw. The top one was like it was their dad as a sci-fi mechanic, and so he sent me some pictures of his dad. He let me make up the sci-fi mechanic element of it. The guy below him, I can't remember his name, but he invented it was like some bomb. I'm already blanking right now. He was a pretty interesting dude, actually. It was all about bombs, and he created bombs. So, and it has this like history. I got sucked into it. It was fun. Last guy is the lead singer for the OCs. So it's like it runs the gamut of all these different. People ask me to draw different things, but I love it. I mean, if anything, is what I love about comics is the opportunity to draw and capture all these different types of personalities and things. So.
Hey, Dave, I got a spoiler for you. So somebody I know is planning on getting the commission, and he said, I think I might have Dave draw like the Predator renting a movie at Blockbuster, something like that.
Whoa, that'd be cool. That would be brilliant.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
But he said, I might ask to do that. I'm like, all right, dude, that's cool.
I'm game, I'm a comic book slut. Is like I always say, like I'll draw whatever you want,
Johnny and I are like, well.
Right, let me get my Power Girl and Zatanna ideas down. There we go. What was I say? It reminds me back in the day. I don't know if you remember Comic Vine, the website. They used to go to lots of cons, and they'd be like, go to the artist alley and say, right, and the idea would be draw a character with, like. Draw Spider-Man having an ice cream, and then all these different artists would do an interpretation of this. One of the first things, I don't think they do it anymore. But one of the things that made me quite sad a couple of years ago, I went to a Thought Bubble. It's like a big convention over here in the UK. Lots of artists are there and stuff. And someone asked for a Venom picture. Can you draw Venom? And the guy was like, yeah, I can draw Venom. Yeah, I can draw Venom. No worries. Come back in about half an hour and I'll have your Venom. And it's like, okay, cool. So he pays his money and off he goes to do whatever in half an hour. So I'm kind of like just dotting around the place. And I'll come back a little bit before like the guy comes to say, because I'm interested, I'm being nosy. And there's the artist with his cell phone with a picture of Venom on it. And he's trying to like do the Venom thing. I'm like, you work in the business, and I appreciate not everybody loves Marvel or DC or whatever, but surely to God, you know how to draw Venom. You know, he's one of the biggest characters. It's like saying, can you draw Wolverine? And everyone going, yeah, sure, and not knowing that he's got the snickety snicks. It's like, what?
Yeah.
What?
How many blades? 2, 3, is it 4? How many blades?
Does he have blades?
They're
Is he a
forks,
wolf?
right?
And Venom's costume is pretty straightforward. I mean, basic black, right?
Yeah, all you gotta do is get the jaw and the tongue, and that's it. You're there. You're set. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Venom eating an ice cream.
maybe he's like, I don't know how Venom would eat an ice cream though. You know, so maybe.
Bless.
Yeah, I think with the age of the internet, a lot of comic book artists, a lot of artists in general, I think get really sucked into the ease of references that you can find on the internet. It's a nice thing. Like I remember when I was really little, and I talked to this comic artist, Eric Larson. A lot of this stuff was all like all these search engines were really good, and I remember him just being like, references, find as many references as you can. But his advice was like the library, right? Like magazines, like get a bunch of those things, you know. And it's great advice, but you know, like now it's so easy to see everything that I think we almost look for a reference before we even think about it. Like Venom, you're right. Like that one's, I mean, aside from doing Spider-Man with just the alien suit on, it's probably one of the easier costumes to pull from your head. But I understand that. It's
funny because Greg Land gets loads of grief.
Yeah.
For delusional photo references, especially on his female characters, where he draws in a very curvy.
Yeah.
Delicious. Pick whichever one works for you.
Realistic.
Don't get me started. Don't get me wound up. Don't.
Yeah.
Because I have a thing. I don't understand why Power Girl doesn't exist as much as she does. I know everyone's like saying, "Oh well, you know, female characters are this, you can't sexualize them." But I know women who've got big boobs and they don't feel sexualized at all. They've got backache. Let me tell you.
You need superpowers to hold those things.
Yeah, that's right. You've got those powers for a reason. Yeah. I think I've just cancelled myself. I'm not sure about it.
All of us. Sorry, Art, you didn't even say anything, but you're getting canceled too.
Yeah. Just by association.
Fun while it lasted.
All right. We've had a look at the Kickstarter. We've had a look at some of the art. We've spoiled out about it, right? If you are interested about the Kickstarter, dead simple. Follow this. Head yourself over to Kickstarter.com. All you got to do is type in California Ink, and I tell you what, chances are it'll come up. Or you can pause this, write it down, we'll put it in the trailer at the bottom so you can click the link from that point and go from there. All right? The choice is dead simple. If you want to keep up to date, who wouldn't? Follow Instagram on California Ink Comic. Check it out on Instagram. Instagram, as you all know, is all about pictures, so I'm sure you'll see some of lovely Dave's work on there. Extol the virtues of the many cast members that exist. There you go. Happy with that?
Yeah,
good stuff.
Cool. Art, Dave, it's been fantastic having you. Thank you so much for spending the time to chat with me about your project. It looks absolutely gorgeous. You know, I can't wait. All right, so by all means, hit me up anytime to talk about your book. It's fantastic. I want to say
thanks for having us, Johnny. You're awesome.
Thanks, Johnny. Yeah, thanks for having us on your show.
Don't forget to check out. Yeah, thanks. It's like I planned it that way. Didn't plan it at all. Just happened. Don't forget to check out the UCPN for all your favorite shows, including the No Price podcast for all your Marvel, MCU, Disney Plus stuff. You've got the TDC, the Definitive Crusade, dropping all your DC information. And of course, you saw the advert earlier. If you like things a little bit more, I was going to say mature, but I'm on the show, so it's not that mature. Aged. Then you can check out the Old Timers Comic Book Show. There you go. Excellent. Guys, thank you so much once again. I really do appreciate it.
Thanks, Johnny.
Thank you, Johnny. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
I've been your host, Johnny the Machine Hughes, and as always, adios.
Visit undercovercapes.com for the latest and greatest podcasts via the Undercover Capes Podcast Network. Also visit our parent company website, comiccrusaders.shop, all about comic pop culture.